Hey everybody, this is Cad Roll Hunter, and today we're gonna hunt a box of dimes, or is it pennies? Hi everybody, this is James, and you're watching my channel, Cad Roll Hunter, and today, well, what we have is in fact a box of pennies, a dime box full of pennies, it seems. This is exactly how I got it from the bank. I went to the bank the other day and said, hey, do you have any pennies? As I tend to do. And they were pretty happy to give me pennies. They had a box of pennies in a dime box, $13.32 to be exact. And I think this is going to be a fun hunt because check this out. So we got one bundle that are pretty traditionally wrapped pennies and penny rolls. And then all these other ones are in nickel rolls and quarter rolls. They are taped up and on both ends because the pennies would obviously fall through. So I think this is going to be a fun one. And this one, it looks like some of them may have already fallen out. They did their best to try to keep the pennies in there. So I've been assured that there is $13.32 of pennies in this dime box. I'm really interested to see what we might have. Clearly, somebody was emptying out the piggy bank or the penny jar and didn't have penny rollers, but found these other rollers. So this should be a fun one. Let's get cracking. Okay, well, I got everything set up here. I got the scope ready. I got my scale handy. I've got my Charlton guide handy. I have my magnet handy. And I figure what we'll do is we'll start with these interestingly wrapped rolls. We'll probably start with these ones here. Even pennies in a dime roll, sort of all askew, and some loose ones here. We, of course, have our copper cup here to see if we can find copper older Canadian cents. Are all copper from 1996 and earlier. But we'll get started with this interesting assortment of coins. I'll kind of push them back to give us some space to work on. And there's even a bunch of loose ones. And I can see already that we've got our first laureate portrait already. And it is a 1963. So we're starting strong with something for the board. And we'll get into these rolls right here, right now. Well, an early look here in our loose change, we've got a 1985, and it is the blunt 5. It's not the pointed 5 that we'd like to find. Roll number 1, and we found our first really nice copper cent. It is a BU 1980, and take a look at that. I guess I gotta hold it like this for you to see. A few little spots on it, but otherwise, particularly the reverse is stunning. Lots of nice shiny cents, particularly these 2002. This is the Golden Jubilee, the 50th anniversary of the Queen's ascent to the throne. And yeah, these are pretty nice. There's a bunch of them in here. I'll see if I can pick out the best to keep. Roll number 2, it's our quarter roll of pennies. And it's a short one at that. It looks like it's probably short 8 or 10. But we got a 1965. We're going to throw under the scope our first sort of variety check for these 60s. This is the blunt 5. The next thing we want to do is check to see if this is the small bead or large bead. We'll just flip this over and take a peek. So we're just looking at the legend on the obverse, and we're looking where the A is pointing, and it's pointing between 2 small beads. If it was the large bead, it would be pointing right at one large bead. A little further back, we're going to have our second laureate portrait find, that is, and that's another 1963. Little further back, we've got a 1962. This one's got some corrosion on it, but it's another laureate portrait find for the board. Roll 3 is our first American penny, and this one here is going to be a 1965. Same roll, we got a really nice 1972. It's got some toning, so it might be more like a red-brown, but it's in really nice condition, but you can see that it started to lose its redness. And we've also got a really nice 1979, and I scoped it, and it doesn't have any of the doubling on the date that we might find on some of them. And as we're making our way through that roll, we've got our first 1964 of the hunt. Pretty worn, but that's a find for the board. And speaking of worn, here's another one that's seen better days for sure. We'll take a look and see. But it's an older one. It's a 1956, our first 50s penny of the hunt. And towards the end of the roll, another 1963. Roll number 4, just our second US cent, and it's another 60s copper cent. It's a 1964. This one from Denver, I think. We can see the D right below there. It's pretty faint, but it is there. Same roll, another nice looking copper penny. It's a 1975. Same roll, we got something older. I just moved a cent out of the way and saw our friend George the Sixth here staring back at us. It's a 1947 with the maple leaf. I'll pull that up for a second. We'll look at that. Okay, there you see the maple leaf at the end of the 47. What that was signifying, and I'll flip it over here, is that India became independent in 1948, and there was a great demand for the penny, but they had to redo the dies. The dies were coming from England, so they needed to strike new coinage. In 1948, they did that by just adding the maple leaf, so that the date 47, it still had et ind imp and Emperor of India on the obverse, so they didn't want that to say 1948, so they just reused the die, added the maple leaf to indicate it was minted in 1948 until they could get the other dies for the 48s that would actually omit et ind imp. Roll number 5, this was in a nickel roller. This is a double 7-9. We can see doubling at the base of that 9, and there's some at the base of that 7. So it's the double 7-9 with some of that die deterioration. And the 7 is slight. I can see it better with the naked eye than you can on the screen. But that's a cool variety to look for. Any of those 78, 79, 69, some of the 70s all have versions with die deterioration where you see some of this doubling. Not a true double die, but an interesting variety to look for. Same roll, another 1964 to add to our board, a laureate portrait. Pretty worn, but that's a 60s Queen Elizabeth laureate portrait for the board. Same roll, we got another bright and shiny. It's a 1978. We'll just throw that under the scope and see if that bad boy has any of the doubling. And it does not, but that's a nice looking coin. And just a little ways back, another laureate portrait. This one is a 1961. I just pulled up a Centennial of Confederation with the Rock Dove. I put her under the scope, no doubling on the dates, no doubling on DG Regina on the back, but I see right behind it another 1964. And this one is pretty brown, but not in bad condition in terms of detail, although there's some odd markings on it, but that's another great find. And this roll is turning out to be really good because we have our first US wheat cent. We can see that right there with those wheat ears. We'll flip it over and we'll see it's a 1946 out of Philadelphia. That's great. And I just saw right behind it another bright and shiny Canadian cent, this time a 1980. And a couple of coins later, a really nice 79. I just flattened out roll number 6, and we've got a gorgeous 1977. This is one of the reasons I love hunting pennies. You can find some beautiful cents, and you can find some older stuff, and you just never know what you're going to find. So that's a great one for the collection. I'll roll this up. I keep all my BU pennies rolled up. I'll add these to my rolls. Same roll, a really nice 79. We'll throw that under the scope too. And no significant doubling on that one at all. This is what they normally look like. So if you're just wondering if you've seen all those doubled 79s, for instance, that I found, it's only after going through probably 10 times as many 79s that don't have anything on them at all, just like this one. A little further back, a really nice 76, but it's got some spawning. It's not one I'll keep, but it has got a lot of its mint luster still. There's another nice one. Let's see what this one is. It's a gorgeous looking 75. Roll number 9 is going to give us another coin to look at here. It's a 1959. We're making our way through. We've already filled up one copper cup that's just about overflowing. And in roll number 10, we're going to have another laureate portrait. This one is going to be a 1962. Roll number 11, I'm just bringing you in because I can just see peeking behind here a George the Sixth. This one is a 1952. That's a last year George the Sixth. But it's clearly not the last George the Sixth in the roll or in the hunt, because right here is a 1946 just behind it. And we're going to have a pretty grungy looking Elizabeth. This one, a 61. And this is just our 5th US penny, but it's a pretty nice looking 1986. So this is a zinc cent. It's not copper. but it's got lots of luster. I'll look and see if this might be better than what I have in my collection. Same roll, more for the board. This one's gonna be another 1964. And directly behind it, a 62. Still in that same roll, and I've just got a 79 under the scope, and if we take a look at it, boom, we got a double 7-9. You can see lots of doubling on that 9 on the bottom. You can see some at the base of the 7. What I like to do is just rotate these around just to really make sure that it's not just a shadow, just so that if we can see it as we rotate it around, we know for sure we got some real dye deterioration doubling on this one. And this roll just keeps on giving because this time we got another 61. Roll number 12 is going to give us more George. This time it's a 1940. So this is our oldest penny of the hunt so far. And very last coin of that roll is going to be another 1964. So we've had lots of 60s laureate portraits and a few Georges too. Roll 13 is going to give us another 1962. And on these ones, we want to look and see if there is the guitar or harp variety. You would see some lines coming down from that one toward the leaf. And of course, we're also looking for the hanging numbers where there's a die clash that makes it look like the last number in the date is hanging. It's actually an impression of the queen's sort of neckline from the obverse when the two dies struck together accidentally. In this condition, it's really hard to see that, but we'll look in scope later and see if there are any that we might be able to find that on. Roll 14, what's it going to be this time? Another 62. Same roll, we're going to have another one. Another 62. All right, we're in roll number 15. It's the last of our makeshift penny rollers. It's a repurposed quarter wrapper, and it's going to give us a 1963. And what that means, of course, is that we just don't know if all these pennies came from the same person. Whoever brought these ones in obviously had penny rollers. So I think that could be sort of a different batch or a different customer who might have brought these in. So we found lots of early cents and a few really nice examples. So we don't know if these are going to hold the same kinds of things. They could be better or it could be worse. We'll see. Same roll is our first 1960 of the hunt. And we got another George. This one, a 1947. So this one is the 47 without the maple leaf. So it was actually minted in 1947. Roll number 16, just a few coins in, we got a 1964. And just a little ways back, another 64. Same roll, we're starting to find some US pennies, but I bring you in because we got another 64. We're into roll number 16 now. These are the actual penny wrappers, so not the repurposed quarters, nickels, and dimes that we saw earlier. And this is our first chance to look for any of these varieties in, say, 2003 or 2006. We've had relatively few zinc and steel Canadian cents so far, and nothing beyond 2001. So these ones are somewhat different, probably from somebody else's piggy bank. So we'll check all of these to see if we find any of the rare varieties. We're going to start with this 2006. We'll flip it over, and we see that it's got the Royal Canadian Mint mark on it. So that's not going to give us a rare variety. What we're looking for is the one with no mint mark, and either a P composition mark, which would be low mint, or no mint mark, but is magnetic. So there's many different varieties for 2006, but this isn't the one we're looking for. Okay, a little further back, here's a 2006. When we flip it over, we see there is no mint mark. What we want to see is if we can find one that is magnetic. And this one is not. This is the one that's made of zinc. We're looking for the steel one, which is far less common. Same roll, and despite the fact that we're finding some newer stuff, we are still getting some older stuff. Here's a 63. Roll 17 is going to give us our 11th 1964 laureate portrait of the hunt. Roll number 19 is going to give us another laureate portrait. This one is a 1964 and another one right behind it. And that one is a 63, and I see a 65 behind it. I'll check to see if it's the pointed 5 we haven't found lately. Just at the end of the roll, and we have a wheat cent from the United States, and it is an oldie. Check that out. It is a 1919. That is incredible. Flip it over and we can see those pretty worn wheat ears. This penny is 103 years old, and we found it coin roll hunting Canadian pennies. Incredible. Roll number 20 looks like it's going to be a whole lot of US cents, and that's not uncommon or unusual for people to find lots of American coins in circulation here and roll them up and keep them with their Canadian pennies. So we'll see if there's anything interesting. Maybe we'll find another Wheatie. That would be awesome. I have a 2017 Philadelphia minted US cent, and nothing special about this particular one. But what's interesting is that the 2017 is the only year that the United States 1 cent coin actually had a P mint mark for Philadelphia. All other years, Philadelphia minted coins don't have the mint mark. Only the Denver and potentially San Francisco for proofs and such carry a mint mark. So this one is special and unique for the year 2017 with that P mint mark. In that roll, we got another 1964. Roll number 22, and we're going to have something here because we have a King George VI ender, and I didn't even check the enders on these. I didn't take them out of that box, so I didn't even notice that. So we got something for sure. Okay, so we got our ender showing here. It shows Et and Imp and Emperor of India, so we know it is a pre-48. Oh my goodness. This is a 1938, a 30s King George VI in the roll. Now this roll I see has some shinier, some Americans and some newer Canadians, so I don't know if it's going to be a whole roll of this kind of stuff, but that's an awesome find. Just a little further back, we've got a 1963, and it's our nicest 63, and it still has some mint luster showing, so that's pretty cool. Same roll, we have a 1982D, so I put that on the scale to weigh it up and find out if it's copper or if it's zinc, and it weighs over 3 grams, so it is copper. It'll go in my copper pile for my US copper cents. Roll 24, we got another laureate portrait. I got a few in the last roll. I didn't bring them in. They weren't very nice. They were, in fact, quite a bit like this one. This video is getting a bit long, so I didn't want to show you all of them. But this one is the first in this roll, 64. A little further back, we'll have another older Elizabeth, a 1955. I put that 55 under the scope because there are some varieties to look for. In the 53, 54, and 55, there's a shoulder fold and a no shoulder fold variety, which basically shows like a strap or a shoulder line here. It's hard to tell in this kind of condition. This one is the shoulder fold, and the way you can really tell is looking at the lettering here, and the I in die is very slim for the shoulder fold variety, and is very flared for the no shoulder fold. The no shoulder fold is really rare in the 1955, so we certainly want to scope it and look for it here. This is the common shoulder fold variety for 1955 though. And just at the end of that roll, we got another older Elizabeth, a 1958. We're in roll 27, the last roll. We've got a 1962 laureate portrait here. We'll see if we got anything else in here that might be worth looking at. Otherwise, we'll do a wrap up. And just getting towards the end, we got another one. This time, it's another 62. Well, that was a fun hunt, and we have 3 cups of copper that are basically overflowing and 1 of zinc and steel there. So we got 3/4 copper in this entire hunt, and we found lots of cool stuff. So here's our US copper here. We got a little bit there, and a few zinc cents that I think will upgrade in my collection. We also got a bunch of, pretty nice copper cents from Canada. And we got a few of those 1979 double dates and 1 2002 P that I think will upgrade in my own collection. But otherwise, we found 37 laureate portraits in the 60s. We got a 60, we got a couple of 61s, actually 3 of them. We got 8 62s, we got 9 63s, and we got 16 1964s. In the 50s, we got 1 King George VI last year, 52, and you can see we also got a 55, 56, 58, and a 59. In the 40s, we found 4 King George VIs, that 40, 47, a 46, and a 47 maple leaf. We even found one in the 30s, a 1938, so that's an early George VI. And I think our find of the hunt is this 1919 wheat cent. We got another wheat cent to a 1946 Philadelphia. So that was a pretty good haul in a bunch of customer wrapped pennies. So I hope you enjoyed this hunt. If you did, please give it a like. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, Cad Roll Hunter, please do that now. I put out videos all the time. And so thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.